I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and it's part 2 of the HTC One Mini full video review. Can this pocket-sized smartphone that fits pretty well in the pocket to boot with metal build, boom sound speakers, and Beats audio compete with the Galaxy S4 Mini and some of the other small devices on the market? We'll find out in part 2, which starts right now. It's part 2 of the HTC One Mini full video review, and I want to kick it off by going right here into Quadrant Standard and taking a look at the speed test on this device, because it is running a newer version of the dual-core processor Snapdragon 400 CPU. So it's part of the new numbering architecture, the 400, the 600, the 800, and for me it runs really fast. Even at a Snapdragon 400 CPU, I don't find myself really missing the quad-core capabilities that the HTC One has, and this has 2 GB of RAM as well. Really not seeing a huge speed difference as much as you would expect. I don't see it when I'm in email, I don't see it when I'm browsing the web. Don't really have any issues at all when it comes to that stuff, and I'm pleasantly surprised to say that this phone's fast, which is great for those people. HTC's working on revitalizing their strategy. They've got the One Mini. I assume they'll make a bigger one at some point. So you got the One Mini, and whatever they call the bigger one. You've got a tiered product launch of 3 different devices that all presumably will look the same, and really a great thing for their brands. They're working hard on that, and it continues with the HTC One Mini. While this is running, quick thanks to our partners at Best Buy Mobile. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll deal with unbiased representation, whether it's AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, T-Mobile. They'll help you get what's most important to you and what works best for you. So do you want to proceed? Yes, I do. Pardon me, I'm still recovering from a cold. 6,031, so take Quadrant Standard with a grain of salt. We've seen speeds as high as 12 to 13,000 on the HTC One with its quad-core processor and 2 GB of RAM, but still really fast here. And I keep talking about that, but I want to underscore it because people look at 1 GB of RAM and they think, oh, that sounds slow. And even when you look at HTC devices from the past, it sounds incredibly slow. You look at 1 GB devices and you've seen them stutter and lag around. Not the case here with this latest HTC device. Dual-core works well, 1 GB works well, and even though it only has 16 GB of internal storage, which I know you're going to ask me how much of that's available to the user, I will tell you roughly how much is available to the user. I'm taking a couple of pictures obviously here, but you get roughly 11 GB of internal storage out of the box, and that's important because there's no micro SD card slot. So once you get to a certain point, you're either going to have to offload your pictures and your videos, or upload them to Dropbox, or find some sort of cloud-based solution. But overall, pretty impressed with that. I want to talk about a feature that I really love on the HTC One Mini, and it's been talked about, but it really is underscored by a bunch of other stuff that people talk about when they're reviewing HTC devices, and this thing is a pretty cool feature. It's called HTC Get Started, and if you're wondering where I got the awesome wallpaper, that is where I got it. Basically, you can get started with this device from your computer. You can personalize it from your computer without touching the device, and that's really cool. Settings here, I'm going to go into Display, and I'm going to go down here to let's find, actually let's go back and go to Personalization. Personalize, let's go to Wallpaper, let's go to Computer Photos, and what I'll do is I'll come over here, you're going to see Connecting to Server, connecting in here to HTC Services, and I'm going to go to that URL, start.htc, and it should be already, there it is, perfect, /wall, and it's going to ask me to put in this code, so I'm trying to do this while I'm on camera, Q1DQV2, get started. And from there, I can select my device, HTC One Mini pops up, I can go to the next step, and I can upload custom wallpapers, or I can come down here and pick one of the ones that's pre-installed. Now you see most of the HTC, and I'm not showing this on camera, but you see most of the typical HTC wallpapers, no real difference there. And usually it stops at that Beats audio wallpaper, if you know the one I'm talking about. But there are a couple of extras here on HTC Get Started that I can use. So I'm going to switch it over, for example, to the hot air balloon. I'm going to click Next Step. And you're going to see something pop up here in just a second. It'll say already finished on your computer. I can click here and I'll finish personalizing. I'll go ahead and download that, and you'll see my items downloading here up top. Again, not touching this from a customization standpoint on the phone itself. And when I come back out, I've got my brand new wallpaper right there with the hot air balloon. I can always go back if I want to and do something else. I can do this little dude. Actually, you know what? I'll do these colors. This looks pretty cool. And it should bring up Apply Phone Settings, as you see right here once you're logged in. All I have to do is click that. I'm doing, again, all this from the computer. Really like this. It's a nice evolution of the HTC account from what we've seen in years past from HTC. Pretty impressive, and not shown off enough in HTC videos. And I only imagine it to get better as time goes on. So I'm downloading this, for example, and boom, there my wallpaper changes again. Really cool right there. Like that feature. a lot. Overall, you get the same stuff here, and I just want to recap the fact that without the exception of the optical image stabilization in the camera, you really get a similar experience here as you do on the HTC One. You got blink feed like I talked about in part 1. You got the same 5 maximum home screens. Got the same look and feel in the menu. No real differences to the overall functionality here, so it's not really, even though the processor's a little bit watered down, the RAM's a little bit watered down, the software, or storage rather, is a little bit watered down. You do get a very similar experience all around with the HTC One Mini, which is nice because for the markets either that don't want the HTC One, you can't get it, or for those people that want something a little bit more pocketable, it's a far better comparison to the HTC One than the Galaxy S4 Mini is to the Galaxy S4. Very impressed all around with the look and feel of this device. And with Android 4.2, you get the new goodies like a physical battery percentage indicator right there up in the top. So I like that. I like that a lot. I like it a lot. And you can see again, everything very quick and zippy all around. No lag despite only having 1 GB of RAM. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com. Overall, I can say I really enjoy this device. The One Mini is definitely, it's a step down, don't get me wrong, in comparison to a quad-core processor, 1 GB versus 2 GB. But for me, it's about the story here, and you can see that this device, in comparison to the One, like I keep saying, is far better than the Galaxy S4 Mini to the Galaxy S4. You've still got a 720p HD display here that is gorgeous. Even though it's not 1080p, 720p looks fantastic on this device. The battery life at 1,800 milliamp hours, surprisingly decent. HTC over the years has worked incredibly hard on preserving battery life and working on stuff within the software itself to maximize battery life, and that continues over on the HTC One Mini. I continue to be impressed. It's not going to last as long as the HTC One. I get about, I'd say, 14 hours of moderate use here. I do find it dying by the end of the day, and that's also with the HSPA Plus version, not the 4G LTE carrier version that we might see, assuming it launches in the United States. So if this launches on like AT&T, for example, with 4G LTE connectivity, expect that battery life to be slightly worse, but still getting a day's use out of this device. And even though I'm cutting it close, that's with moderate to, I'd say, low heavy use. So something to keep in mind. Keep it locked on the site for continuing coverage. Keep it locked also for the dogfight between this device and the Galaxy S4 Mini. We'll compare them head to head in a dogfight battle very soon, and we'll see which one comes out on top. I'm on Twitter at PhoneDog_Aaron. I'm also on Facebook at Facebook.com/HiAaronBaker, Google Plus at gplus.to/PhoneDog. Thanks for watching. More to come on this tiny little HTC One. Actually, it's really not that much smaller when you look at it, but I should say it's still a mini device, so we'll call it that. HTC One Mini on PhoneDog.com. I'll see you next time.